Hello everybody, Anna is here and welcome. Welcome to a money date and welcome to my kitchen. I wanted to do something different today. I have to cook dinner, right? Because I and Yuri want to eat, but I also wanted to hang out with you at the money date. But I'm going to show you a couple things that I'm cooking for dinner tonight, and then we're going to dive in and talk about. This is a money show, okay? This is not a cooking show, but I thought that why not? Hi, Lori. Thanks for joining. Glad to have you here. So, welcome, welcome. I'm going to show you what I'm cooking today. It's actually one of the favorite recipes. Let me just make sure that you can hear me. So, as you can see in the title, I am making stuffed bell peppers. So a little bit of a background here. Here they are. So I steamed the bell peppers. So a little bit of preparation before I started. So it's not live cooking show, but as much live as I can make it. Okay, so I steamed the bell peppers because it's gonna help cook them faster. Making chicken as well. So this is chimichurri spiced marinated chicken thighs. So I'm just sauteing them, I guess, on the skillet. So here's my stuffing. This is what is going to go into a bell pepper, okay? So I've got carrots, I've got celery, I've got a little bit of cumin, and I've got zucchini, yellow zucchini. Now, the stuffing itself, so sometimes I make it with rice, but today I'm gonna make it with quinoa. So this is gonna be quite a bit of an interesting combination. Now, this is something that I use quite a bit, which is one of my favorite type of oils to cook on is ghee. I've spent 2 years in studying Ayurveda a couple years ago, and this is something that I've learned. So ghee is actually a variation of oil that you can make from regular butter. It's really nice, has really buttery taste, which I like. So, and another ingredient that's going to go in bell peppers is corn. So I've got that here. So those are my ingredients, and I want to make sure, let's see, I've got to make sure that you guys can hear me, and then I'm going to start talking about, so I want to get the stuffing going, put the peppers in the pot, and then we can dive deep into talking about taxes, because I thought, you know, what could be more fun than discussing sort of not so fun or interesting topics over an exciting conversation like cooking dinner. Okay, so you guys need to let me know what's happening with you. What is for dinner tonight? Sometimes all I have is leftovers, so I have to put you here at the top so that you can actually see me doing some of these things. I am kind of tied up to this microphone, but the reason for that so that you can actually hear me. Now, Lori, this is actually per your suggestion last time, because you wanted to talk about, or you wanted to hear me talk about some of the ideas I have about saving money on taxes. So I've got quite a few tips for you today. But as you guys know, what is the money date? And why do we even come here every Wednesday? So first of all, money date is not a cooking show. This is just one of the things I like to do when I have time. But money date is a time once a week that we set for ourselves to check in, okay? And the reason we want to check in, because we need to stay on track. We need to be aware of 3 things, okay? We need to be aware of how much money did we spend in the last week. We need to know where our income is coming from. So if we are in a variable income, if we are self-employed or consultants, that's really important to track. For those of you who get regular paycheck, that's also important to track, right? Maybe you get paid every few weeks. So I want to make sure my chicken doesn't burn. Now, and the last thing what we want to check and make sure is that how much money did we actually save? Having a savings goal is something that is going to keep you on track to, you know, getting there, whether it's retirement, taking a vacation, and also it will help you stay sort of within the parameters that you set for yourself. Because otherwise, if you aren't saving, aren't planning for something, then what's the point of all the hard work that you're doing? Okay, so that is the essence of a money date. Everything else that we talk about are these just educational topics, because I want you to be educated consumers, right? So this is what you guys need to be tracking without me necessarily reminding you, but I'm happy to do that because that's something that I have to do for myself. So I want to make sure that the chicken doesn't get burned, so I had to turn it over. Okay, so if you're joining me here for the first time, hi Rachel, thanks for hopping on. This is what Money Date is all about. I started doing Money Dates by myself quite a while ago, but it got to a point where I wanted to have a discussion with somebody else, right? I wanted to have a discussion with Yuri, and then I wanted to have a discussion with you because I felt like that's something that everybody can benefit from. So since our theme of today's Money Date is taxes, I found a pretty neat quote, and it reads the following: in this world, nothing can be certain or more certain except for death and taxes. It kind of makes me laugh. I don't know why, but this is a quote by Benjamin Franklin. I'll turn this music down a little bit. So, and it's true, right? We can always be sure that it's someday, and I like to refer to that point of death as our plan is going to come to an end. So the point is that we just don't know when. But taxes is something that everybody has to face, right? And so the idea of today's discussion is for us to talk about what can we do, what are some smart strategies, especially because this is the year end, right? We have, somebody reminded me today that we have 2.5 months to go, and I was like, no, we have 3 months to go because we're still in October. So October, November, December, and I wasn't thinking that today is the 11th, right? Anyway, so let's say we still have 3 months to go in this year, and what are some of the ideas I have for you to think about, right? Because there's always things you can do better, and if you didn't get a chance to do them last year, I invite you to think about what can you do better today so that you're much more set and prepared for the year ahead. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. But before you guys, hi Peter, thanks for hopping on. Now, I want to start getting ready with my stuffing so that I can put the bell peppers in the pot and start boiling them. But while I'm doing that, I want to share with you, I'm going to step back here a little bit. I want to share with you, this is one of the things that we actually do on a Money Date. And again, money is such a interesting concept and topic with everybody to be talking about. And so one of the things that I like to do in my personal life, and I invite you to do as well. So what I'm doing here, I'm just going to try to comment a little bit too. I don't know if you can see it. So I boiled quinoa, about a cup of quinoa, but I did not cook it all the way because it needs to be sort of 3/4 of the way cooked. I cannot bend my phone anymore so you can't see. I'll show you the final product. So I boiled it almost to the fully cooked state because it's still going to be cooking once I put it in a bell pepper, right? So I'm going to mix quinoa, the carrots, celery, cumin, and zucchinis that I sautéed before. So that's my stuffing. So usually bell peppers, or as I used to cook them before, and this was an idea actually, Julia Perez, if you're on, she had actually posted a recipe about making these stuffed bell peppers without meat, because typically I would put some kind of ground meat, either chicken or beef, just to kind of make it more fuller. So her idea was cook the meat on the side, and that's why I'm having chicken to be sort of on the side. So I've added corn. I'm just gonna mix all of this together, right, to make sure that I have a pretty well combined mixture, and then I'm gonna stuff it in the bell peppers, and that's it. So there is definitely a little bit of preparation time that went into this. Don't think that I just whipped this out, but probably about 20 minutes before I hopped on the show, I've had all of this ready to go. So not a whole lot of time. So I was thinking that with all of this said and done, maybe within an hour I can have a dinner cook. Now, you guys may think that I cook like this all the time. It's actually not true at all. I don't cook like this all the time. I barely have any time, but I thought that instead of having a a traditional sort of money date, me sitting in front of a computer in my office, why don't I just do it from my kitchen? It's a little bit more entertaining. I can cook dinner and then hopefully share a recipe or two with you. So that's where that idea came from. Okay, so I'm almost ready with my stuffing here, and I invite you to come and join us for dinner. Okay, so if you're in the area, I want you to come in. Now, so going on to talking about, I am getting closer to discussing with you the actual tax tips and strategies, but what I need you guys to do is to share a money win with you. Now, money win is something, and I'm trying to show you, so this is a final mixture, so you can see it's pretty colorful. I like the colors, yellow, orange, green, and I also put parsley, okay? So just a little bit of, gives a really nice smell. I need to make sure that I put a little bit of salt, because that's something that you want to make sure you do while you're cooking. I've never really taken any formal training or cooking classes, but I've watched plenty of videos and I've been subscribing to a lot of different cooking magazines. But one of the things I learned is that you have to salt food as you go, not at the end, because that's where the actual the flavorness comes. Salt and put spices. Okay, so the only spice that I'm going to add on the top of just the salt, and I cooked the sauteed veggies, is cumin, and that's what I'm going to add. I like this spice. It has a lot of neat properties, and as I mentioned, I attended an Ayurvedic school a couple of years ago and learned about all about Ayurvedic cooking, which is really helpful in maintaining sort of balance between mind-body kind of balance in cooking, to make sure that you eat seasonally. And so one of the things I learned about was there's different kind of spices that you can add and different seasons that actually help you maintain that balance. So cumin is one of those. It's more of a universal spice, but I still like it in this combination. Okay, so all right, on to money win. Now, something that I always wanted to talk about, and this is how this idea came about. You know, we go about our days, our weeks, our months, our years, and never really think about or pause and think back about what is actually good in our life. And it doesn't have to be anything financially related, but since we are attending a money show, right, I want to tie in our wins and our successes to something that has to do with our finances. And so I like for you to think about, and let me know in your comments, right here below my video, what are your, almost lost my connection. I apologize. What are your money wins? Okay, and so I'll give you an example because I always like to share mine. So a money win is something that you feel good about, right? Because I believe that everything we do in life ties into our finances, one way or the other. So a money win for me in the last week, and it's been actually more than just a week, but at least, you know, I try to pause and think about what has been great. I've shared this with you guys before, that I talk about gratitude, and those are the things that I actually have. I have a gratitude journal that I keep, and so every evening I sit down and I write 10 things I'm grateful for. It's been a really transformational practice. But today I want you to pause and think about, and maybe you want to share it with me. I'd love to know what has been really good in the last week. It has to do with your finances. So here's mine. So Main Street Financial Planning family is growing, and so we've actually just added a new member in our Maryland, DC offices. So hopefully very soon you guys will start hearing from this new advisor. I'm not going to tell you who it is just yet, because we will have to do a formal introduction. But I'm very excited because I love the work that we do, and when more people commit and get on board with us, I just feel like it makes the world a better place, because we can help more people. So it is definitely a money win from all angles, because it's not only benefiting us as a company, it is definitely going to provide more service to clients like you. So I'm excited, but I'll make a formal announcement once this individual is on board. So that's my money win. Please let me know what yours. I want to make sure that I can actually see your comments. So type something in the chat, let me know you're here. Hi Chelsea, thanks for hopping on. Okay, so I am ready. I actually need a spoon. So hang on a sec, try to stretch. I have a microphone, so I want to make sure that my recording is proper and you can hear me. Okay, so I'm gonna start talking about the actual tax tips because that's why you're here. But I'm sure you also enjoy watching me make this dinner. Okay, so I've got, let me look at my notes. I've got 6 different tips for you. Okay, so you may want to get your pen and a paper out and start writing these. Okay, so here's tip number 1. Okay, now I talked about how some of these adjustments can be made in the next 3 months. This is something that you can also make changes to throughout the year. Okay, so my tip number 1 is maximize retirement plan savings. Okay, so let me pause here and talk to you a little bit about what I'm actually meaning here by retirement plan savings. Now, for those of you who work for a company, most of the times employers provide a retirement plan. Okay, so think about, and you'll be surprised, so here's my first pepper. You see, it looks pretty good, right? It's red. I love the colors. Red and yellow, pretty fancy colors. So the first one is ready to go. Now also something to show you. Now this is the pot that I'm going to put it in. So what I've got here is sour cream. So I'm going to add a little bit of water. Basically what I want, because I'm going to put these peppers in the pot, what I want is for them to cook in this sort of watery kind of sour creamish mixture. So it's not just, it needs to have a little bit of juice, but not a whole lot. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water here. Don't have any in my pot. And then just to make that more liquidy, and then I'm going to put the peppers in this pot. So retirement plan savings. Okay, let's start thinking about, do you have a 401k at work? Do you have a 403b type of plan if you work for a nonprofit organization? Have you started saving in that retirement plan? Because let's face it, and if you guys don't know yet, but those retirement plan contributions is something that you can actually, it can actually help you. Hang on a second, I gotta get some water. It can help you reduce your taxable income. And the way that it works is that every dollar you put in, it reduces your taxable income proportionately. So the maximum you can contribute to these retirement plans in 2018 is $18,000. Now, if you are over, so I'm just make sure that my mixture in the pot is all kind of mixed in. Okay, good. All right, continue. So if you are over 50 and a half, if you're over 50, you can contribute additional $6,000. So I'm talking about $24,000 that you can put away in these retirement plans, which will reduce your taxable income or your salary dollar for dollar. Now, this is not only for benefiting you in reducing taxes. This is also benefiting you in helping you save for retirement, which many of you are struggling with because, and it's not just you particularly, but it's how our society today, Americans are behind as far as retirement savings goes. Now, something also to remind you is that a lot of times employers help you save as far as the retirement savings go, and they offer you a match. So a match is just a free money that employer gives on your behalf into your plan if you save something. So I ask you to consider whether your employer is giving you a match, and at least, right, if you can't do $18,000, then certainly that's something going to be pretty hard to do in the next 3 months. But if you have a match at work, you shouldn't be leaving that money on the table, right? Because it's free money. Okay, so now if you do not have a retirement plan at work, it happens, it's very typical these days, or if you work for yourself, consider saving in a retirement type of account called IRA, individual retirement account. That's the type of account that you can set up on your own That does not allow you to put $18,000. The limits are very significantly less. It's about $5,500, and if you are over 50, you can put additional $1,000, and that helps you reduce your taxable income by that amount. Now, there's some limitations with as far as the income. So if you earn over a certain income, you cannot contribute to the IRA type of account. Okay, so but I'll tell you what these limits are. So if you're single, the limits start, the income limit is about $62,000. So if you make over $62,000, the deduction part at what goes into that IRA is where that starts to wear off. And if it's a married couple, so if you're filing a joint tax return, don't have to be married, but filing a joint tax return, it's $99,000. So there's still a bit of income gap there, and if you have a plan at work and you aren't contributing to that but wanting to open an IRA, you have to look at whether your income still will fit within the limits, because that reduces it even further. Now, if you don't need to have a deduction, right, we're talking about what are some of the ideas for reducing taxable income or reducing your taxes. Now, this is kind of the counterintuitive option, because if you are in a low income tax bracket, right, and you don't need to have a deduction, maybe contributing to a Roth IRA, right? This is the type of account where you contribute after tax dollars, right? And the money that's in that account grows tax-free. So if you don't need a tax deduction this year and your income is pretty low, then perhaps you can contribute to that type of account. All right? So I feel like this is an important one because it kills two birds with one stone, right? It helps you save on taxes, which is everyone's kind of priority, and it helps you save for retirement. So if anything you're wanting to do, this would be the first one that I would like you to consider, okay? Because that's the easiest one to tackle, whether you have a plan at work or you don't, okay? Now, my peppers are ready to go. I'm gonna set them up, and then we're gonna dive deeper, and I'll be a little bit more focused. I'll show you what I've got here. Here they are. Here they are. They're ready to go. Aren't they looking pretty cute? I like them. So I covered up them with the little top that it came in, and so I'm gonna set the burner on probably sort of medium heat. So I want to boil them for probably 20 or so minutes. Okay, so let's get over here and chat a little bit further about the tax savings ideas that I've got for you. So let me find a convenient spot. I want to make sure I can watch my my cooking here, but I appreciate you guys hopping on. This is actually pretty cool. I wish I had a second person who can hold my camera, because that would be much easier, right? And you can actually see all the angles, but we'll see. Maybe I'll find a second person at some point. I'll have to have Yuri help me with this. So, all right. Okay, moving on to tip number 2. I'm gonna sit over here and get my notes. Moving on tip number 2. And so we talked about taxes, okay? Or taxes, reducing taxable income with saving in our retirement plans. Okay, so now let's talk about something that I think everybody can do and they can do more of. Okay, and I'm referring to charitable contributions. Okay, now I know a lot of you have charitable intent, but you need to think about, once you make those contributions, how much of impact are they actually going to make on your tax return? Because let's face it, we all know that charitable contributions, whether it's cash, things that you don't need at home anymore, or actually maybe securities, right, or it's a different type of investments, how that affects your overall tax situation, right? And so one of the things to remind you is that you need to have, if you're contributing more than $250, right, in any given year, you need to have a receipt, right? So if you take in donations to the Goodwill, make sure that you get a receipt. If you're donating money to various organizations, you make sure you have a receipt. Now, if you have investments that have very low cost basis is something that you actually paid for that investment. So let's say you bought Apple stock. many, many years ago at the very low price, right? But we know that Apple stock increased in value. So let's say today it's worth 10 times or 20 times more. So that's where you need to think about, because if you donate that stock to a charity, you get to write off, you don't get to pay taxes on that appreciation. This is what that appreciation actually is, what goes to charity, right? But if you actually keep the stock yourself and sell it, that's where you have to pay. Hey Dwayne, thanks for hopping on. Good to have you here. You missed the whole cooking show, but I'll fill you in as we go. So that's one of the things to think about. So take a look at your portfolio and think about what kind of investments, if any, you have that may be worth donating to a charity, right? And charity can figure out what to do with those investments. They can sell them, they can keep them. They have a whole lot of programs that can benefit you. But don't think that charitable contributions always have to be in cash, or they have to be in some kind of form of closing furniture and things like that you actually don't need at home. Hi Katya, thanks for hopping on. Okay, so my tip number 3 is, I've talked about this yesterday, but making sure, so if your employer offers a health savings account, this is the type of account where you can put pre-tax dollars, right? Hi Sheila, thanks for hopping on. You guys, I need to make sure that my peppers are boiling properly, because I can hear the noise. So here they are. For those of you who just hopped on, see, so that's the sour cream mixture. These are stuffed bell peppers. Ooh, they're smelling really good. Chicken. It's almost actually ready. And I had some stuffing left, so I wish I had one more pepper, but I wouldn't be able to fit it in my pot. So I'm gonna lower I boiled it now. I'm gonna lower it on sort of low setting and then let it sit there for just a bit. I know, Katya, you're welcome to come for dinner. So now, health savings account. Ooh, did you guys see my roses? This is something that Yuri got me this past weekend. Actually, not past weekend. These been here for 10 days now. I love the ones that actually can last for quite a bit of time, and they're pretty good too. Alrighty, taxes. Okay, so health savings account, right? So this is the type of account that you can contribute pre-tax dollars and use those dollars to help you save money when you're using to pay your medical expenses. So if your employer offers a high deductible health insurance plan, this is the type of account that I highly advocate you put money into, because again, that helps you reduce. So if your income is $100,000 and you as an individual can put $3,400, or if you have a family, it's $6,750, that reduces your taxable income dollar for dollar. Now, then you can use it for paying various medical expenses. Also, a neat feature with health savings account is that you can actually continue carrying it forward without necessarily having to spend all the money. So it can turn into a nice hefty investment as you go. Now, tip number 4, yes, I know, be careful what you wish for. Well, you are always welcome. So, portfolio losses is something that I want to discuss as well. Now, it's probably, and so with our clients who actually come back to see us in the fall every year, it's quite interesting what we're going to see in the next 2 months. So October and November is when a lot of clients are coming in and we're looking at their portfolio and sort of fishing, if you will, right, for something that's called tax loss harvesting. So if there are particular investments that clients own that actually have decreased in value, and there are other ones that increased in value, and so what we're looking to see is if there's one that we can sell at a loss, right, maybe perhaps it's time to let it go, and then the one that we can sell at a gain, and we can offset losses with the gains. So that's what tax loss harvesting does. Now, sometimes it may be advantageous not to sell any investments that have gained and continue keeping them, but it may be advantageous to sell investments that actually decreased in value. So the reason I said it's going to be an interesting exercise, because we've had a fantastic time in the stock market over the last 12 months. The returns for most clients are in double digits, and this is despite all of the kinds of stuff you've heard in the news with our new president and everything. So I am curious to see if we're going to be able to offer client advice with lots of positions to sell that have losses. But what I want you to think about, and sometimes you could sell a pretty substantial investment at a loss where you cannot deduct the losses in that particular year, because as I was explaining, you can only deduct losses against the gains when it has to do with investments, and I'm talking about capital gains. But sometimes if you have more than $3,000 that are left over, you can actually use that $3,000 to offset your ordinary income. Okay, so if you happen to have $3,000 or more, you can use the $3,000 of losses to offset your income, right, ordinary income. But if you happen to have more, you can actually carry that forward. So it could be used for your tax return in 2018, 2019, and so forth. I hope you don't have something like that, because that probably indicates that you sold an investment that didn't do as well. But this is something to think about. So consider looking at your portfolio and see what some of the things that are actually not doing so well and what are the things that are doing well, and offsetting one with the other. Now, my tip number 5 is medical expenses. All right. Now, this probably going to be more difficult for most of you to achieve and to get there where you have enough medical expenses. And I hope you don't, because that probably indicates that there's some things that you aren't, that you may be working on your health. But if you do, and this is one of those things, you have to get to 7.5% of your adjusted gross income. So I'll give you an example. If your adjusted gross income is, let's say, 100,000, I just like round numbers, then you can deduct 7.5% above or over that. So if we take $100,000 multiplied by 7.5, so anything above $7,500 in medical expenses, you can deduct. So I think that's a more difficult one to do, but it's something for you to consider. Now, my last thing is, and I think a lot of you guys who are hopping on the show could probably practice doing this one. So, and my tip number 6 is postponing receiving any kind of income. So we have less than 3 months left to go in this year. Now, can you, to give you an example, what do I mean by postponing to receive an income? You may think that I'm silly suggesting something like that, right? Because we want to get as much income as possible, but you need to think about, so if you're earning a certain amount of income, you're going to be taxed at a certain tax bracket, right? So if you have the opportunity, and this is probably more doable for those of you who are either consultants, self-employed, or business owners. So if in the next couple of months you can actually postpone signing up that client or receiving that contract until January and saying, okay, instead of, if I earn X amount of dollars and this is my tax bracket, but if I get more income, it's going to put me in the higher tax bracket. So can I wait to do that until January? Now, it is totally doable. I see this done all the time with my business owner clients, self-employed consultant type of sort of flexible arrangements, because then that allows you to mitigate what tax bracket you are in, right? Therefore allows you to keep your taxes down, because come April of next year, we're gonna have to face the reality and write a check to Uncle Sam. Okay, so think about if it's all possible, whether something like that can be done. Now, some of you who are starting your businesses and this is just a year that you dive in, you've got to keep good track of all of your expenses, okay? I'm going to share, I have a little cheat sheet for those of you who are self-employed business owners, consultants, sort of working on your own, having side gigs. I can share with you, I have a little cheat sheet of how do you actually properly keep track of your business expenses, because believe it or not, a lot of things can qualify as deductions. So I hope this was helpful. My peppers are boiling slowly. It's probably going to take another 15 minutes or so, but I wanted to make this exciting as much as I can. I hope you enjoyed my cooking show and our discussion about taxes. You still guys have chance to share your wins. This never ends. It doesn't have to be just around Wednesday. You are welcome to shoot me a note anytime. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you watching, and you guys have a fantastic week. And this was Money Date, and I am Anna, and I'm thrilled that you could join me. Thanks so much. And by the way, if you have ideas for topics you want to talk about, I am always looking for ideas, okay? Because it is it is challenging in a good way for me to think about what do you guys want to hear about, because the topic of financial planning, finances, or anything to do with money is so complex and diverse, but sometimes one topic might be more interesting than the other. And yes, Katya, I'll share the cheat sheet about various expenses or various types of expenses and deductions, and how those of you who are business owners, self-employed consultants can use. So thanks so much again. You guys have a good evening, and I will see you in about a week. Take care.